What's going on, gents? This is going to be a quick video on knife tuning. Uh, Pretty much just removing that. And by that, I mean that scraping sound that the blade is making on the inside of the liner of this pocket knife. This is an Extrema Ratio. I bought it used. And I was using it here and there, and I was sharpening it today when I noticed that it was not as smooth as it could be, and I heard that scratching of the inner liner scratching against the blade, and that's not how it's supposed to be. So we're just gonna take a quick look at how to tune it and adjust it. What you're gonna need is pretty simple. In this case, your main equipment's gonna be some sort of small bit screwdriver. This is just some cheap thing I've had for a while. You're going to want more than likely a T6 or T8 Torx bit, but it all depends on your knife. And that might also adjust the pivot here. But in this case, I have a flathead for the pivot, so I have a flathead bit here. You're going to want a wadded up piece of paper, and you're going to want some excess because sometimes your wad just isn't adequate, so to speak, and you're going to want a bigger wad, and that's what everyone likes is a bigger wad. But you're gonna want that. This is just a quick little, small little handle in case I had to, if you haven't ever disassembled this knife before that you're adjusting, sometimes those screws are a little tight, or they might be dirty, or they might have rusted or whatever. So you're gonna want something for a little more oomph. Now, obviously, be careful. Some of these bits are really small. It's easy to strip the screws. So just be cognizant. If it's too tight, just use something to undo that. Undo whatever's in the inside, be WD-40 or whatever lubricant of choice you desire. Wow, just a bunch of innuendos in this video. And finally, Loctite. Most of you gun guys are gonna have Loctite. Blue Loctite in particular is Loctite 242. Especially you with RMRs on your handguns, you're gonna be very familiar with this. That's where I dug this one out of. So, pretty simple. What you're gonna start off with is you're going to undo your pivot. Not all the way, but you're definitely gonna unscrew it. Make it loose. If you see there, very loose. And then you're gonna move on to your handle screws. So I only have two. I removed the pocket clip just to make the video a little easier, but you're just gonna undo them, not all the way. You don't wanna lose them. And they don't need to really like fall out. This need to be loose, and you'll see here that the entire thing is pretty damn loose. And you're gonna stick your wad over here, and see my wad is not adequate for this, so I will need to get some more paper. Luckily, I prepared for this eventuality. And you're going to stick your bigger wad inside of the slit here. In order to, you're basically going to try and get your blade to touch the opposite liner on the inside. And if you'll see, it is in fact touching. So now you're going to go through the delicate process of retightening your handle screws or whatever else is holding the knife together, or the scales to it. And you're not going to want to do it super tight because, again, these are small bits, and the last thing you want to do is break these bits. And then you're going to start working on your actual pivot itself. This is the fun part, because you're not going to want to over tighten, but you're going to want to tighten it to some degree. So usually I just go all the way to the tightest I can get it with like simple force, so I'm trying to force it, and then I'll just back it out, maybe a quarter turn. Now I'm going to pull out my wad, and you'll notice that the blade is close but no longer touching. And when I open it, it's very, very not smooth. So in this case, you just back it out a little bit. Just very small, imperceptible turns. That might have been too much. It is smooth, yes, but at what cost? Because now I'm almost touching the edge, but not really. So, all this takes is some tweaking. a lot of tweaking. See, that's too tight. But the blade is no longer touching. And then you're trying to find that balance between. Let's see, there you go. That was perfect. Look at that. Easy money. And no longer touching. Once you've gotten that, you know, you can kind of like, if you want to go over all your screws again, just make sure nothing's crazy. You know, reinspect as always. And then with your pivot, you're going to want to back it out and add Loctite. I've already done this before, so I'm not going to add more, but you're just going to back it out. You're going to put the smallest dab of Loctite like you do with any screw. Very small dab. You put too much and your nut's going to break. It's not going to open or close, and then you're stuck like Chuck. But, you know, the smallest little dab. So you can undo it should the need arise, and it can still move freely. And that's really it. Pretty simple. If you have a folding knife, you should be familiar with this method. And if you aren't, here you go. Shout out to Metal Complex for making the best video out there. Going over this, that's kind of where I learned, and then I just kind of replicated it. I just figured, spread the love.